Hey folks, it's Sam, and making a quick video here today on Sunday, February 18th. I'm making this video about the upcoming eclipse, solar eclipse first, and the eclipse cycle. You know, we have just found out that March 25th eclipse trial date coincides with the lunar eclipse that's happening. You know, I've been recently doing all of this work talking about eclipses, kings, popes, even talked about this eclipse cycle and how it will affect Biden and Trump in 2024. I'm going to check in with a quick video here today and talk about that and some real surprises that we might see in the next month or so. Please like the video. Clicking like helps a lot more than you know. It pushes the video higher in relevant video searches. Also, please leave a nice comment. Comments also help more than you know as it raises the video in searches. Many times with hundreds of likes, there are only a dozen comments and they can be disproportionately negative. So be positive. Let me know if you like this. Even just a few words really helps. So subscribe, ring the bell to get notified of upcoming videos. Yeah, it does really help a lot. If you are watching this and you like this and you want to get more videos like this, go ahead and like the video. Leave a nice comment and share it with others and whatnot. So let's get to it. This is going to be, very interesting because I just did a video a couple days ago that had this as a screen where I talked about how the eclipses are going to be affecting Biden and Trump very differently. This happened right as the judge was handing down the very stiff penalty of, a couple $100 million against the Trump business in Manhattan. Of course, as I said, this is affecting Trump's 8th house. That same day, it was announced that he was going to be having to sit for the trial of the hush money payments and whether those were illegal campaign contributions and all that, the stuff that happened in the 2016 election. And the date was set March 25th for that trial. And looky. This is the date, right? March 25th is when that's supposed to happen. And that happens right on the day of the lunar eclipse. Again, this year we have the lunar eclipse, very wide eclipse. It's a penumbral eclipse. And then the solar eclipse happens at April 8th. But the very date of the trial to begin is a lunar eclipse. And it's right on Trump's house here, his retrograde Jupiter. You can see this this confluence. And again, this is really fascinating because in my election prediction, which by the way, I'll drop that link in the comment. In the comment, you have a link to that. And as you can see it under my name, samselectionprediction.com. But in that class, I actually talked about the solar eclipse that's happening here in October. I talked about that specifically, about how I think this is definitely not a benefit for Trump, because when we get to the eclipse season in October, there's going to be a solar eclipse right on his retrograde Jupiter in his 2nd house. I said that looking forward. Again, my mind doesn't revolve around every possible trial of Donald Trump that could be happening. I didn't even think that, oh yeah, there's a lunar eclipse coming up. And lo and behold, that lunar eclipse, because again, the eclipses happen when the luminaries hit the nodes. When the sun hits the node, we have solar and lunar eclipses that month. But yeah, that lunar eclipse that's happening on this very vulnerable Jupiter, retrograde Jupiter in Donald Trump's chart, is the very date that was set for this trial. As you see, his trial date is set for March 25th, and that's the exact same date as the lunar eclipse that's happening right on his natal Jupiter. I say right there because you could see K2 21, 22, his Jupiter 24, 20. So K2, the south node, is going right over his retrograde Jupiter in his 2nd house. Jupiter is also his dasha planet now. And Jupiter is the 8th house ruler. It's retrograde in his chart. And by the way, it also has to do with I've said this about his chart 1,000 times. It has to do with his up and down approach to money and exaggeration and bankruptcies, and all that kind of stuff is shown by, in his chart, he's got Jupiter, the planet of wealth and money, etc., retrograde in the second house. By the way, it also has to do with not being honest and truthful. The second house is about speech, communication, and this retrograde approach. So this trial, very much about, like, illegal campaign contributions. The event, besides whether or not he's found guilty or innocent, has to do with, in the 2016 election, literally a few weeks before or a month before everyone voted, he had Michael Cohen pay $130,000 to Stormy Daniels to keep her quiet. Because if she would have come out and said, hey, I had an affair with him when he was married to his wife and blah, blah, he didn't want that to happen. So imagine what that election would have been like if that would have also come out. Anyway, that's what the trial is about. So we're in full eclipse season, folks. And you can see, as I also have down here on this graphic, I've been talking about this, as it says, this eclipse diffusion and influence on the calendar and in the sky. This is indicating that the effect of eclipses grow as we get closer to the eclipse. It's not this 6 months ago, we're still getting the effect of that eclipse, and then 6 months into the future. It's as we get closer to it. So right now, and within the next month, we're in about a 2-month window right now, where we're getting very close to the full impact of this next eclipse cycle that's happening in Pisces and Virgo. That means that the solar eclipse is happening in Pisces and the lunar eclipse in Virgo. Now, again, in the previous video, I talked about how that affects each of these candidates differently. That it was happening in his 5th house and Trump in his 8th house. And I said, overall, it's going to track better for Biden because the 5th house is just more auspicious. And we could see what was coming with Trump with these lawsuits and losing money and stuff. But I also want to be clear about a few things because I've been thinking about it. And you should understand, my life doesn't revolve around politics, making these predictions. I see these things and I come on and I speak about them after I have enough to, speak about. This is a kind of contrast and comparison between these two, right? This is why I'm saying, the detriment of Trump is going to be to the benefit of Biden, let's say, in this context, because they're running against each other. That's the context of this. So something that would benefit Biden would be the detriment of Trump, because they're kind of like, which one is up, which one is down, so to speak. So, but I also want to be clear that, like, for example, especially thinking a little more about Biden, because there's really the possibility of him, and it's being reported quite a bit, of him withdrawing from the campaign because of all of the screaming about him being too old and that, Joe, why are you still on the ticket? Obviously we could find someone stronger. You've done a great job, but now it's time to let go, surrender, release, let it go, let it go. This is all big Pisces stuff. And I said that, and again, it's a little more nuanced for Biden for sure, because I said that this 5th house, this eclipse in the 5th house is more auspicious for him. One of the ways that it would be very auspicious, and again, think about this in the terms of these individual people, not as, well, it's going to be good if Biden wins. It's going to be bad if Biden loses. Good, bad, good, bad. I'm actually talking about the karma of these people. Look at how Biden's being talked about now in pretty much all contexts. He's being talked about as in a not very good way, even though there's been a lot of things that he has done that have been good, so to speak, especially relative to economy and things like that. The stories being reported is that why are they only talking about that? Only talking about that he's old, only talking about that, right? So he's getting all of this criticism. But let's say, for example, that on Monday he said, okay, I'm letting it go. Again, Pisces, I'm surrendering this. I'm letting this go. I understand, I think I've done a good job. Now I'm going to surrender and let this go, put this in the hands of whoever. Let's say he did it. I don't think it's going to happen then, for sure. I think that a plan that's in the makings of him getting the nomination and then the delegates deciding could very well happen. But let's say at some point that happens. Notice what people will say about Biden. Notice how he will be spoken of then. Will he still be spoken of in such critical terms? Why doesn't he resign? He's too old. Blah, 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 blah. Or will suddenly he be spoken of in a more auspicious and graceful way? Look, we got to give Joe Biden the credit for what he's done. He's done this. He did this. He defeated Trump, and now he's handed it off. The great Joe Biden. Notice this. This is why I'm saying you have to think in nuanced terms relative to these things and not just black and white. Black and white meaning it would be good if he stays in and wins. That's not necessarily the good thing, even for him or for the country, or even with how he's talked about. Particularly when we're looking at this quality of the fifth house, which is about being gracious. Again, it's literally the house of our children, our heart's desire. Now, maybe it's not going to happen like that. I'm giving you possibilities, though, because if it happens that he lets go of it and then people are like, haha, Sam said it was going to be this, or I want you to understand that that falls in line with what I'm saying here. That overall, this cycle is going to prove to be more auspicious, I think, for Biden because the fifth house is more auspicious. This is in Pisces. Pisces is the sign of letting go, surrendering. It can look like loss, but when we lose something that we're supposed to let go of, it's gracious. It's called surrender. When you lose something, for example, with Trump and all this money that's getting taken from you, which is eighth house, it's very different. Both of them are Pisces, liquidating things. Trump might literally have to liquidate a bunch of assets to pay his debts. Liquidating assets, liquidation is very much 12th house and Pisces. Maybe against your will or because you have to. And again, if you think of the concept of liquidating your assets, and for Biden, his asset is he's president and that's his power and he's going to like let it flow and let it go. That's also a same function of Pisces, but a more auspicious one. And think about how he would be talked about if that happened and how different that is with how he's being talked about now as just old Joe. He's so old. He's so old. Well, now it would be he stepped aside for the good of the country or blah, blah. That's how he would be talked about. So ponder these things as well. By the way, I also want to make it clear that I'm not necessarily saying that even these lawsuits and this legal trouble that Trump is in is going to necessarily sink him totally or anything like that, because there could be a backlash where, again, eighth house is about the dead, but it's sort of coming back from the dead too. We have to see how this plays out. So I just wanted to also just give a range of possibilities of those kinds of things as well relative to these predictions. And again, but we can see the seriousness, obviously, of what's happened with Trump and his eighth house, and the shocking fact that his that trial is set right on the same date as the eclipse is pretty, is pretty remarkable. And so again, we have the I just dropped the link there in the chat. Oh, and hey, here we go. Biden, most corrupt president, USA, worst economy. What are you talking about? Well, there you go. So we have a variety of opinions here on Sam's Live. So anyway, I did want to make this video because there are a lot of ways that these things can really cut, right? And so especially fascinating that this March 25th solar eclipse is happening right on Trump's second house and retrograde Jupiter in the second house. And Trump was born, as you see, he was born on eclipses. He was born on a lunar eclipse as well, right? And so eclipse cycles and eclipses are incredibly influential for him in his life. And I just wanted to come on and show this, incredible case study, even in real time, because I just did a case study of this where we see the incredible peril and danger that Trump is under right now with all these court cases coming. And then even you have to understand he's going to be sitting in a courtroom. This isn't the recent ones where, even the defamation civil suits and whatnot. This is a criminal trial where he has to go to court and sit in a courtroom. So starting March 20th, well, there's doing jury selection March 25th. And then by the time we get to that solar eclipse in April, he's going to be sitting in a courtroom. And again, this is maybe this is going to make him stronger. Okay, everybody says this kind of stuff. We'll see. Talking about these two individuals, let's just be very clear about one thing. No one wants to be forced to sit in a courtroom like Donald Trump is having to do now. No one would have chosen that for themselves. No one would have chosen for him to lose $355 million the other day. That's not what anybody wants. And again, this is where you see these vicious eclipses, this eclipse cycle happening with the sun, with Rahu in Trump's 8th house. So let's see how this plays out. I don't want this to be a very long video. I did just want to come on and show a couple of those things and actually also get it on the record, because it's also seen where Biden could just withdraw. And notice if he does, again, this is very much Pisces energy, and think about what it would be like, how people would be talking about him if he decides to do that. Again, right now, it's just, he's too old, he's too old, he's too old. Yeah, good things have happened with the economy, but he's too old, he's too old, he's too old, blah, blah. That's all you hear. For him personally, it must be like, So if he were to let it go, it would be like, suddenly he would be talked about in Democratic circles and all like that as, you know, the guy who beat Trump the first time and then stepped aside for the good of the country. So the next people could come in. It would be looked at as a very gracious act, very auspicious act. And it's the empowering quality of letting go and dissolving, particularly in this world. It would be a noble act because, of course, people hang on to power till the day they die. Even when they're in their 80s, they will not let it go. Hint, hint. So yeah, we'd all like to see these octogenarians kind of let the next generation lead, right? And so it would be seen in a very different way than how he's being seen now. So that's also an incredibly important and truth and real possibility with the next few months. So we'll leave it at that. I hope you have a great rest of your day. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel.